Life is precious, and we all have the opportunity of living it to the fullest. Unfortunately, so few of us know how to manage it all. How do we account for our opportunities? How do we account for our time? How do we account for our relationships, health, spirituality, homes, finances, influence, and careers? How do we account for the one life we have to live? I am so glad you asked. In this program, you will find answers to all of these questions and more. Welcome to the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore.
What's happening, and welcome back. Today, cultivating spiritual resistance in tough times. What are tough times? What do we need in tough times? Like, what is resilience, and how do you get it? What should I focus on if I'm going to have resilience? And let's just add in another thing here, just cultivating this spiritual resistance. Like, how does one do that? Today, we're going to look at that, and we're going to answer some questions. We'll look at what the Word of God says that we should be focused on. And then we're going to also look at like how we can actually get focused and become all that we can, so that when tough times do come, which they will, there's tough times all over the world. If we look at Israel, there's a lot of tough times happening in Israel. People woke up one day and, things were going crazy. There's tough times, in just about every country imaginable. But what about the tough times in your life? Let's talk about that today. So as I was sitting here, really going over my mind how this can work for you, cultivating tough times. I mean, I got to jump right into the Word of God, because the Word of God it's like a foundation. Like it's everything that we need right when we need it. They say when, I think there was an old adage, when you need credit, you're probably not going to be able to get it. You got to get credit before you need it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, when tough times come, you should have already prepared. You should have already been kind of like thinking, if we think about Joseph and what Joseph did for Egypt, he helped them to prepare for tough times. So let's look at what the Word of God says in James chapter 1. We're going to read 2, 3, and 4. It says, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall on tough times." So that's one of the first answers to the questions. Like, how does one have resilience in tough times? Oh, there's joy in tough times. There's power in tough times. There's, I'm not saying you're going to have fun in tough times, but there's joy. He says, count it all joy. Number 3, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. Yesterday we talked about produce, what produce is. And here it is. These tough times are going to produce something. If you could produce all that you wanted, and all you had to do was go through a tough time, would you welcome the tough time? Would you say, I'm going to count it all joy today? And so let's look at verse number 4. And it says in verse 4, "But let patience have its perfect work." Wait a second. What is Paul saying here? He's saying in tough times, one, you got to count it all joy, because it's going to produce something. It's going to produce a stronger faith. But let patience now has to be that thing that we're producing in tough times, because maybe it takes me longer to get to where I want to go. Maybe there's more obstacles. I mean, that's why I'm in tough times, to get to where I want to go. Because as he finishes here, he says that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. See, for business people, we should be looking at this saying, this is a blueprint to getting to the next level. That's what we should be saying. And if you're not in business and you're thinking about it, hey man, just think, patience is going to produce a perfect work in me. And that And so that that may be perfect and complete, and then I'm not going to lack for anything. So, how does one cultivate spiritual resistance in tough times? Now, I'd like to do a word study. I always want to look at words and, what is cultivate? You know what cultivate is? Like, just off the top of your head, cultivate is to develop something. Like if we just think about the ground, if we just think about, growing grass or, growing an apple tree or orange tree, whatever kind of fruit you're talking about, whatever kind of herb, you're going to have to cultivate something. What do we have to cultivate if we're going to grow something? You got to put something in the ground. You got to put something in the ground. It's got to go in the dirt. Because if I take that same seed, which I take the seed, I can have some seeds right here on my desk. And man, these seeds represents just a whole garden. But yet the seeds aren't in the ground. Nothing's going to happen. I don't even have to pray. See, a lot of times we think, man, let me just pray over this thing. No, that's not, I'm not saying you don't need prayer. What I'm saying is prayer. Prayer is like, it's just a communication. See, a lot of times we misconstrue what prayer is. Prayer is a communication. Like if we were talking, like if we were standing in front of each other and talking, for us to get to know each other, we got to talk. We got to talk. So if we never talk, then I don't know you that well. So when you come talking to me, it's going to be like, well, who are you again? So you got to first get to know somebody. So that's prayer. But when you got to do something, when you got to cultivate something, there's action involved. That means with that same seed, with those seeds that I have on my desk, I can't take those seeds and then, just sit them on my desk and say, man, I'm about to have this beautiful garden and I'm going to be growing apple trees and orange trees and mango trees. And I'm going to be growing some broccoli. I'm going to be growing all these nice, beautiful vegetables, pomegranates. Like, oh my goodness, it's amazing, but they're on my desk. They cannot grow. So if I'm going to cultivate something, I've got to find out where I need to put the seed. So when we're talking about spiritual resilience, see, that's the thing. Now I want to cultivate spiritual resistance, which I'm developing a spiritual. What is what is resilience? Resilience is the ability of a substance, or it's the elasticity or the ability to bounce back. So resiliency is the ability to bounce back. Something happens, boing, I'm going to bounce back. So to have a spiritual connection that allows me to bounce back from, man, I just got some bad news that, somebody died. I just got some bad news that, maybe I've been diagnosed with something. I just got some bad news that, the thing that I thought was going to come through, the financial windfall that I thought was coming is not coming. Man, I just got some bad news. Maybe the client just called me up and said, we're going to cancel the contract. Maybe I got some bad news that, something happened to, to whatever. Like, I'm just saying, like, the ability to bounce back. How does one cultivate something like that? That's a good question. How does one cultivate the ability to bounce back when things are going sideways, bad? Patience. So patience is what we have to produce. So the ability to bounce back is producing patience. And so if this cultivating, we're going to get to how to in a second. If this cultivating is producing patience, we know what patience is. I remember playing basketball and, I'd be on these teams and, one of my good friends, his name's Darren. Darren used to, man, we'd play together. He said, man, Jay, you just got this. Your personality is so cool. It's just almost like you need a Jay on your team because Jay's on the team and Jay can score. Jay will play defense. Jay will pass the ball. Jay will rebound. Jay will do just about everything necessary for the team. But he's just so cool. Like patience is this leveling of your emotions. You gotta level them. Now there's highs and lows, but you got to understand how to use your emotions so that your emotions don't get the best of you. Now I'm gonna tell you, emotions is one of these things where, man, emotions can be a good thing and emotions can be a bad thing because sometimes our emotions get the best of us. Come on now, like it's happened to you before. Like you made a mistake and said something. Like I remember a few months back, and early, it was definitely earlier in 2023. I don't remember what me and Jenny was arguing about, but we were arguing about something. It was business, something business related probably. And she was in the office. We were in the office, and it was ugly. It was not pretty. After it was over, I said, "What's wrong with me? Why did I do that? Like, I should have been more patient. I had to go back. I apologized, and we wound up, we squashed it. But you gotta have patience. Like that's one of those things where when that thing comes up, you gotta see it coming. But how does one see tough times coming? Yesterday we talked about the ant. The ant knows about tough times. The ant knows that, hey man, there's gonna be some bad weather coming. Hey man, there's gonna be some problems coming. There may be some humans walking, may step on us. Like the ant know that tough times are coming, so it doesn't wait for the right time. It says today is the day. I'm gonna do it now. I'm not gonna wait. So one has to actually be almost like a fortune teller. Like you know what? It's better for me. It's better for me to focus on, even if I don't need it. It's like money. Money's one of these things where when you need it, if you wasn't preparing for it, you in trouble. And you learn that lesson. I've learned some hard lessons like that with money. How you got to always be preparing, how you got to always be setting things aside in different buckets because that's how you're going to get rich and be wealthy. You don't get wealthy just because you get lucky. Now, for some reason, successful people tend to get lucky. Why are they getting lucky? Because they're fortune tellers. They're looking in the future and they're saying, man, something's going to happen. Let me work. Let me cultivate because there's going to come a time when there's going to be a big problem. And I don't want that problem to swallow me up. How does one cultivate spiritual resistance? So we told you already that you want to produce patience. But the question is that many of you may be asking is how can like if you're not a patient person, because I've heard people say, man, oh, I'm praying for patience, man, I'm praying for this and praying for that. How does one cultivate patience? The thing was in Galatians, the fruit of the spirit, love, joy, peace, patience. Remember, we were just talking about seeds. And what is a fruit? A fruit comes from a seed. It says, but the fruit of the spirit is love, joy, peace, patience. And here's the thing about this patience. You already got it. It's already there. Remember, you were made in God's image. You were already made in God. We're talking about spiritual resilience here. So anything spiritual, you already have it. I'm going to say it again. Anything spiritual, you already have it. How is that even true, Jay? Well, if we go back to Genesis chapter 1 and 26 through 28, what we'll find in that short excerpt is a declaration. Let us make man, this being, in our image. God is not a human. God does not have a physical body, which means that God is spiritual. So now he's talking about let us take our spirituality and then give it to this new being that we're going to make, but we're going to give this being a physical body. So that being is going to have a physical expression that we want to show through this being. This being is us. So here's the good news for everybody listening or watching this podcast today. To cultivate spiritual resistance is to first realize, you got to first come to the reality of something. I am a spiritual being in a physical body. And because I'm a spiritual being, everything that is spiritual, I am that already. Everything that is spiritual, I am that already. Patience is a spiritual attribute. And because it's a spiritual attribute, it is mine already. I already possess it. All right, Jay. Jay, but that's kind of still over my head. And yes, I get I'm spiritual, but I don't feel like I have patience. There it was. I don't feel like I have patience because you said it. That's what you get. Remember, we're spiritual. So everything you say is absolute. It could be an absolute for you. I don't feel like I have patience. So you cannot have it. That means that it cannot show up. Really? You mean all I have to do is start actually saying those things? Now, I'm a caveat this. Yes, you do have to say it. But what if you say it, but you believe that you don't have it? Which one will you get? You're going to get the one that you believe. That's where the emotions come in. So your emotions is the key, is an absolute key to this cultivation of spiritual resilience in tough times. Because if my emotions say, I believe all like the world's coming to an end and I got all these problems then, but I'm saying that I'm going to do well and business is going to be great and family's going to be great, but yet I believe the opposite, then I got to get what I believe. I don't get what I say if I don't believe it. I know. So how do I change that, Jay? How do I change that, Jay? Well, see, guys, all right. I know I'm on the right path when the successful people say, hey, if you can at least get your mind right, you can be successful at just about everything. I'm not going to say just about. You can be successful at everything within your ability if you can just get your mind right. Now, if you can't get your mind right, but yet you're doing all the things, you still will have a problem being successful. So the mind is the key. So how does one change their mind? And then we're gonna get out of here because that's what the Account for Life podcast is to really talk every day about changing your mind. So how does one change their mind? The first step to changing your mind is to just change your mind. Is to say, I changed my mind. I'm going to change my mind from how I used to think to how I used to talk to how I used to do things to a new way. Now, here's the thing. What way? Now, if I'm having a problem, I don't know what to do, then you got to ask somebody what to do. Get some books, right? You can get the Bible. The Bible is a practical book. If you have a problem reading the King James Version, get a different version. Because at the end of the day, what you need is just a version that helps you understand some words and then go back to the King James, because the King James is I'll go to the King James. I think the version that I read today, I think is the New King James. I just like what it said, but it's the same as the King James for the most part. So the thing is, you gotta say, I'm gonna change. In every opportunity I get, I'm just going to change. And when I fall back into the problems, into the trials, and those trials are coming up. Let's just go back and read this again, because this is the blueprint, my brethren. Count it all joy. Count it all joy when you fall into various trials, because they're coming. Know that the testing of your faith produces patience. So your faith, the fact that your faith is being tested is going to produce patience. It's going to produce patience, but let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. Cultivating spiritual resistance in tough times will produce a perfect patience in you and in me. So, guys, look, they say 2024 could potentially be a year of chaos. And if 2024 can potentially be a year of chaos, then that means our minds is the most important thing that we should be working on, cultivating your mind, my mind. So today, as you move in your life and your experience, say to yourself, if like if you know that you need to up level in your mindset, keep reading James 1:2-4. Keep reading that. Keep going through this so that you may say to yourself, you know what? I'm producing patience, because every time I fall into trials, I count it all joy, because I know that it's producing me. It's making me better. It's making me the best that I can be. That's how you cultivate spiritual resistance in tough times. My name is Jim, with a healthy accountant, helping you to account for life. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this broadcast, this podcast with people that may actually benefit from this. Also, go to thehealthyaccountants.com so you can pick up the free ebook, get your breakthrough now. It's how to unlock your financial mindset, guys. There's 7 strategies in there to unlock your financial mindset. If you want to unlock your financial mindset, go get your breakthrough now at thehealthyaccountants.com. Guys, I appreciate you for joining me for this episode. Look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow. God bless, and I'll see you soon. Peace.
Thanks for joining us, listening friends. We are so glad you invested this time with us. Always remember, you only have one life to live, so live it to the fullest. This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time, make it a great day.